to Governor Jeff Landry's desk for approval, which he'll likely give. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Range Lake roadways, several areas with flooding and several types. Problems at Encino. If you're taking that drive on the 101 West at Haskell, looks like two of the left lanes are blocked with a crash. Busy from around Woodman. Elysian Park on the 5 South to the 110 South. That connector with a stalled vehicle loading up the drive here from Los Feliz Boulevard. Long Beach, the 405 South at Cherry. You have a crash in the left lane coming away from the 710. We're busy. West LA, that's flooding. Taking up the left lane here, 405 North approaching the 10, causing a busy drive from Howard Hughes Parkway. And flooding on the 57 North before Temple in the right lane. Stay to the left there. Slow and go from Sunset Crossing.
Shop the closeout event at Lowe's. Get up to 35% off select major appliances. Plus, save an extra $100 when you spend $999 or more on all major appliances. Valid 1/4/24 to 1/24/24. Selection varies by location while supplies last. See Lowe's.com for details.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Sunday was a good day for both of LA's NBA teams. The Lakers got back to 500 with a 24-point win over Portland. D'Angelo Russell had a game-high 34 points and 8 assists. LeBron dropped 28. The Lakers play the Clippers Tuesday night. The Clippers are 13 games over 500 after a comeback win over Brooklyn. They ended the game with a 22-0 run. Kawhi Leonard scored 14 of those points in the final 5 minutes, 23 off the bench for Russell Westbrook. The NFL's Final Four is set for next Sunday. Kansas City is at Baltimore for the AFC Championship. Two former MVP quarterbacks on display in this one, Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. Jackson is the favorite to win this year's MVP. Detroit goes to San Francisco to battle for the NFC title. Detroit is the only NFC team that has never played in the Super Bowl. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Climate is king.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe that caring for the community means caring about the climate. You might have heard that we announced a pretty bold 12-month, $2 million campaign to do 4 things. Increase climate literacy, turn up the volume on communities of color in the climate conversation, connect everyday people with the resources they need to survive and thrive, and highlight frontline climate justice crusaders of color throughout this year. KBLA Talk 1580 will be bringing you insightful interviews on all of our shows to help raise your climate IQ. Each quarter this year, we will also be hosting free climate events in various communities throughout the city with food, fun, and forward-thinking conversations. Thanks to partners like LADWP, Metro, Caltrans, the Sierra Club, the California Community Foundation, the California Endowment, AQMD, MWD, and more. You'll also be hearing more about a couple of national town halls broadcasting live from Los Angeles, to which you will be invited. And we'll be rolling out a robust social media campaign on all our platforms, as well as an outdoor media campaign, all designed to educate, enlighten, and empower you in our fight for climate justice.
We want cleaner air.
Caring about the community means caring about the climate. At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe that we really can change the world if we care enough. 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 If we care enough.
Good morning or evening, friends. Here's your friendly announcer. I have serious news to pass on to everybody. What I'm about to say could mean the world's disaster. Could change your joy and laughter to tears and pain. It's that love in need of love today. Don't delay, send yours in right away. Hey, going round, breaking many
Tavis Smiley, and it's a sad day around here. In case you have just tuned in and not heard the news, we reported minutes ago that the youngest son of Martin and Coretta, Dexter Scott King.
Yes, Dexter Scott King has passed away. It is shocking news that shocks the conscience. I mean, this is the youngest son of someone who shook the conscience of our nation and the world. And today we are very heavy-hearted here. Indeed, the world is in need of love today with the loss of Dexter King.
Yeah, thank you, Nee. That's the voice of Nee Cortez. He is the chief national political affairs analyst for my home station in L.A., KBLA Talk 1580. And I've made him that for this Tavis Smiley program as well, because he's so brilliant when it comes to analyzing political trends, and there's a lot to talk about, which we'll do that in just a moment. A lot of political news we'll get to here momentarily. But again, as I was trying to say, forgive me, Dexter is now gone at the age of 62, and it reminds us that every one of us eventually has to do that dance with mortality. We don't think about doing that dance at the age of 62, but every one of us eventually has to do that dance with mortality, and it saddens me because now there are two of these kids who are gone. As I said earlier, MLK III is doing his work in witness quite beautifully, as is Bernice King running the King Center. Dexter Scott King once ran that King Center before his sister took over. I was at the ceremony in Atlanta, invited by the family when he became the chief executive officer of the King Center, where Mrs. King passed the baton on first to Dexter and then eventually on to Bernice. But to hear this news today, certainly this close to the King holiday, and it's a lot to take in. It's a lot to take in. I repeat, though, and Nee Cortez and I were discussing this briefly before we came on the air, that it's a reminder to black men everywhere that we have to take our health seriously. We can't have enough conversations. It ain't sexy, it ain't cute, but we cannot talk enough about the need for black men to be on top of their health.
Absolutely. I mean, we were just talking about a week ago about the Defense Secretary. Mm-hmm. Secretary Austin,
that's right,
who was hospitalized, after having surgery. He had some complications related to his prostate cancer surgery. He kept it very quiet, so quiet that even the president and the White House didn't know for several days that he was in the hospital at Walter Reed. And Tavis, we know that black men in particular, prostate cancer can be fatal for us. If not treated early. It's one of those cancers that if you can get to it early, right, you have a fighting chance.
That's right.
But if you get to it too late, it can be fatal. And so, we're thinking of Dexter King in this moment. We're thinking about not the cancer, but we're thinking about the heart of Dexter King, the younger son of Martin Luther King Jr. As Tavis just mentioned, he was a force, and I would say intended to be so. Dexter King was named for the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church in Alabama, where his father once served as pastor, and he was just 7 years old when his father was assassinated in 1968. 7 years old. And so for a generation, there are a number of folks that feel as if they grew up with Dexter King.
It means something to have a name that means something. To your point, he's named after Dexter Avenue Baptist Church, which Dr. King pastored. Scott, he took his mother's maiden name as his middle name, so he had a name. And that name meant something. Dexter Scott King. Again, dead at the age of 62 from prostate cancer. A bit more about that, and then we'll cover some trending political topics. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
You're listening to Tavis Smiley. Tavis Smiley. Ranked number 45 on the Heavy 100 list of the 100 most important radio talk show hosts in America.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With Venture X, earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy and turn everyday purchases into extraordinary trips. Plus, receive premium travel benefits like access to over 1,300 airport lounges where you just check in and chill out. Open up a world of possibilities with Capital One. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
City of Los Angeles landlords that own rent-controlled properties, starting February 1st, you'll be able to increase rents by 4% for your rent-controlled properties. An extra 1% per utility, up to 6%, can be added only if you pay the entire gas and electric bill. And don't forget to give your tenant an advanced 30-day written notice for rent increases of less than 10%. It is state law. Learn more about the rent increase at housing.lacity.org. That's housing.lacity.org.
Ew, gotta get rid of this old Backstreet Boys t-shirt.
Tell me why.
Because it stinks, boys.
Tell me why.
I've washed it so many times, but the odor won't come out.
Tell me why.
No, you tell me why I can't get rid of this odor.
Have you tried Downy Rinse and Refresh? It doesn't just cover up odors, it helps remove them.
Wow, it worked, guys.
Yeah.
Downy Rinse and Refresh removes more odor in one wash than the leading value detergent in 3 washes. Find it wherever you buy laundry products.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
We continue our conversation now about this breaking news out of Atlanta, announced by the King Center that Dexter Scott King, the youngest son of Martin and Coretta, dead at the age of 62 here in California at his home in Malibu. Sad day. Our guest is Nicola-Corte, our chief political affairs analyst, and I'm glad to have him here. One, because it ain't easy navigating this by myself, but I'm glad to have you here for a lot of reasons. Not the least of which is the brilliant point you just made about Lloyd Austin. I'm thinking about Dexter, who dies at 62 of prostate cancer. Lloyd Austin, thankfully, is still living as he navigates his battle with prostate cancer. But everybody in D.C., the national media, has dragged Lloyd Austin, dragged him, as you all know, for being in the hospital, and the White House and others, Secretary of State, not knowing about it. I'm glad you raised that because it brings us back to a conversation about black men. Lloyd Austin, Dexter Scott King. Both have, in Lloyd's case, Secretary Austin's case, the right to privacy. And I've disdained these stories about Lloyd Austin that he was acting secretively. There's a difference for me between secrecy and privacy. I understand the role he plays, and perhaps the White House should have known, but you understand that black man privacy thing. And I think Lloyd Austin has gotten caught in that. Does that make sense?
It does. It does make sense, and I think it's important to note that when folks are being private about their health matters, I mean, there's a reason why doctors aren't able to share our health records.
That's right.
We have a right to that privacy, and you never know what people are going through. Maintaining the energy, the focus to be able to focus on your healing path, right? Who knows? Maybe the secretary, didn't need everybody asking him questions every day about his health, so that he could actually focus on getting better, right? And so, everybody's going to have their opinions and about whether or not, it was justified. But I think it's important for all the black men that are listening and all the people who care about black men it's important to be a space where we don't have to suffer in silence.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and taking on any severe health event, whether it's cancer or anything else, it can be challenging to the mind, to the body, and the spirit. And so, you know, I hope, you know, these recent stories in the news of folks that are no strangers to our community, I hope it is a reminder to folks, right, that you don't have to do it alone.
Yep. I think there's an argument to be made that Lloyd Austin, given his position and given what we're engaged in around the globe right now, whether it's Israel, Hamas, whether it's Ukraine, it might not be the best idea to be MIA. And perhaps the White House should have been alerted. I don't argue with that point.
But at the same point,
Yeah.
it may not be a good idea to alert the enemy.
That's right.
You know, that the Secretary of Defense
Is in the hospital.
is fighting for his life, fighting against cancer.
Right. Nope. To your point, there are two sides to this story,
Mm-hmm.
as is true for privacy and secrecy. I don't think Lloyd Austin was being secret. I think he's being private.
Mm-hmm.
And Dexter Scott King, I said earlier, was very private about this. Most of us, I consider myself one of his friends. I'm in his friend circle. Was in his friend circle for years. And they didn't download us. He did not download me on the fact he was battling prostate cancer. I hadn't seen him for a while, but I knew, but I didn't know he was battling this. I think of Arthur Ashe, who didn't want the word that he was battling HIV/AIDS. People do have a right, black men and everybody else for that matter, have a right to decide how public you want to be, and there's no right or wrong answer. Some people come out publicly and they use their illness to inspire and to motivate and to raise money and to raise awareness. Nothing wrong with that. Other people want to be private about their health affairs. And to your point, that's why our medical records are not out there on display for people, or shouldn't be on display for people to see. It is for me challenging. And Prince, my dear friend Prince, didn't want the world to know what he was dealing with, and he succumbed to it ultimately. So, you know, people have to make their own choices. I think for me, it's a reminder again that every one of us someday has to do that dance with mortality, number one. Number two, to your brilliant point, as black men, we have to get our checkups. I don't know the backstory on Dexter. I don't know the backstory on Lloyd Austin. What I do know is that every one of us has to take these challenges more seriously. There's a reason why black men so often are stricken with these maladies and die from them, in part because we don't take it seriously enough, being a little too private, won't go get checked up. And so I'll get off my soapbox. But in a moment like this, I'm going to tell you again that you got to take your health seriously. I'm taking mine seriously. Nicola just had a procedure.
I did.
You were off the air for a couple of weeks.
Yep, that's right. I had a polyp on my vocal cord and had it removed, and now I'm back in action. But you know, it's scary. It's scary when you're waiting to hear from your doctor. Was it benign?
Yeah.
Was it malignant?
Yeah.
Right. Knowing that could completely turn your life upside down.
That's the scary part. As I said earlier, that's the reason why a lot of black men, some of my own family, who probably listening right now back in Indiana, don't want to go get checked up. They don't want to hear something they don't want to hear. And again, that's your choice. But for the people who love you, and the folk who care about you, and the folk who depend on you, and the babies that you brought into the world, what about those persons? So maybe you don't want to know. But we black folk have to navigate life enough in the dark as it is.
Amen.
I digress on that point. Let's shed a little light where we can and control those things that we can control. And so many of the challenges that we face health-wise, black men, black women, are issues that we could do better on if we would take control of our health. Just had a conversation on this program last week as we start the new year about wellness. And so we're always talking about that on this program and on this station and on the stations I'm on across the country. All of us in the black media care about the health of our people. And we ain't got a single soldier to lose in this fight to turn the tide against all that ails us in this country. And so take care of yourself is all I can say. And I'm sure there'll be more to say about Dexter Scott King tomorrow in the days to come. But for now, we send our condolences to Bernice and to MLK III and the King family on the passing of Dexter Scott King from prostate cancer at the age of 62. We got a few minutes left here between now and the bottom of the hour that I want to pivot to the extent we can. It seems sort of frivolous to be talking about politics when we are bouncing off of a conversation about the youngest son, rather, of Martin and Coretta, but we have to address these issues in real time. And speaking of real time, in real time tomorrow There's a primary in New Hampshire, the first primary of the political season. Iowa was a caucus, so the first primary kicks off tomorrow. And on the eve of that primary, there's all kinds of news. So I'm not naive about this, but I said earlier, how did I put it? Tim Scott has gotten out the race and endorsed Donald Trump. Help us, Jesus.
Fix it, Jesus.
Yeah, fix it. Yeah, take the wheel, Jesus.
Be a fence,
Be
Jesus.
a fence, Jesus. Yeah, we could run that all day long. So Tim Scott gets out and endorses Donald Trump. I go figure. DeSantis, after all that trash talk, gets out and endorses Donald Trump. Nikki Haley is the last woman standing, and she's going harder on Donald Trump, hoping for some surprise victory tomorrow. It ain't going to happen. And Donald Trump, again, Jesus take the wheel, is moving toward his third nomination as standard bearer for this party. What do you make of this moment 24 hours before the New Hampshire primary?
Any commentator, any analyst that tells you that they can predict what's going to happen, they can't. And I think these last 48 hours, are a testament to that. I mean, Tim Scott's over there. He proposed to his girlfriend. He's now getting married, and a lot of people side-eyeing that. Well, all of a sudden, you decided to get married. Like, okay, what's that about?
Getting in line for that short list.
Right? I mean, he's auditioning right now. Most of them are quick to endorse Donald Trump because they are auditioning to become his vice president. And remember back in 2016, when folks were running, and after he won after he won primary after primary, everybody thought they could audition to be vice president, and he, would humiliate people at Trump Tower, right? Get ready for the sequel to that. But this is coming down to a two-person race between Donald Trump and Nikki Haley. The question is, how long is she going to stay in this? How long can she afford to stay in this? What was so shocking about Ron DeSantis is, he's a sitting governor. He was reelected governor. He spent all of his time trying to out-Trump Trump. And donors poured in millions of dollars to support his run for president. And millions of dollars spent after attempt to out-Trump Trump, right? He crashes and burns. I mean, I think the post-mortem on his campaign, should really look at this as a case of political malpractice. How can somebody have that many resources, right, and be a sitting governor in the headlines every day, right? And, you come in second place in Iowa and you're out before New Hampshire?
Yeah. To those who would argue, and I'm not of this mindset, but I got a number of people reach out to me and say, well, DeSantis going down just proves that his attack on DE&I and on banning books and et cetera, it just proves if that strategy doesn't work. I'm like, not so fast.
Yeah, no, not at all. Because, again, that's Trumpism. DeSantis wasn't saying anything that Donald Trump didn't agree with.
Precisely.
DeSantis wasn't saying anything that Nikki Haley or Tim Scott don't agree with. The only difference is how they say it, right? I mean, you have, Nikki Haley, once governor of South Carolina, who has revisionist memory around slavery.
Yeah.
And the legacies of slavery, not just in South Carolina, but in our country and around the world, right? And so, I don't know how long that act is gonna last for Nikki Haley. But for everyone that is a never Trump Republican voter, this is their opportunity to be clear where they stand.
Yeah.
Right? Are they never Trump or are they sometimes Trump? We're about to find out in New Hampshire and then again in South Carolina.
Yeah. Bill Maher, who's coming up, we're going to reprise our conversation with him in just a few minutes. But for those who may have missed it, let me just set this up for you and play a clip for you and then get Nick Corley's take on this. So Bill Maher was a guest on this program last Thursday? I guess on this program last Thursday, and we had a fascinating conversation about Gavin Newsom. Bill's show was premiering Friday night. He was a guest on this program on Thursday in advance of that. So we talk about Gavin Newsom on this program. He goes on his show Friday night in his premiere and does this.
Well, I I always said you make a great case. You know, I saw you debating DeSantis. I said, you know, I'm trying to get this guy to run for president for a long time. He looks like he'd be very good at it. What I liked with that also is you're kind of mean, and we need that. You know, when you need to be, not over the top. But I was on.
I appreciate that.
I was on KBLA yesterday, with my friend Tavis Smiley. I'm an investor and a supporter of that station. And he said, who do you want for running president? I mentioned, I think you'd be good at the job. Not this year, we know. No, I know. But he said, I don't think he could win. I don't think he could win. He's too progressive coming from this state and what he's done in this state to win in any southern state, any red state. I disagreed, but no, this is a progressive African-American owned station, and I'm sure they like you, but he doesn't think you can win. What do you say to that if you could win look at the swing states, there's only 8 of them.
Right. Well, I mean, California's an interesting case study, isn't it? It's the size of 21 state populations combined.
Yeah.
2/3 of the state is very deeply red. We don't need to be lectured on rural politics or border issues. I mean, in so many ways, these are familiar issues, and the issues of the heartland of the United States are very much a part and parcel of the work we're doing in this state. But look, I understand this notion that you're from the coast, you don't understand those things. You can't talk the language. You're not able to communicate, and you're not able to actually encourage and find that common ground.
It's stuff like there's a new law.
So, thank you, Miles. That's what I wanted people to hear. So we're going to reprise this conversation with Bill Maher, and I said earlier, I think that was a shout out to me and to the station.
You think?
It could have been, but it could have been payback because of a tough question I put to Bill about his getting more conservative as he gets older, and a tough question I put to him about what some regard as his race politics. And if you didn't hear the backstory for how that happened on Friday night, you got to hear the conversation on Thursday, which I'll reprise for you in just a moment. In the 90 seconds I have left here, Gavin Newsom's just hanging around. And he's hanging around because anything could happen to Joe Biden, or for that matter, these guys, or Donald Trump, and either one of them spring chickens. Anything could happen between now and November. And I get a sense that Gavin's just kind of hanging around. But I meant what I said. I don't see a single red state in which Gavin Newsom could be competitive. And you ain't got to run the table, obviously, but you got to win somewhere, Nick Quarterline.
Well, I don't think you see a red state yet. But, please know that Gavin Newsom has been focused on supporting red state Dems in different parts of the country. I think it's very smart. It's a part of him sort of, building his national profile by supporting these red state Dems. And the contrast that Gavin Newsom has offered on issues, national issues in the headlines, whether we're talking about DEI or we're talking about LGBTQ issues, etc. And so the contrast between a Gavin Newsom and red state governors like DeSantis, like Greg Abbott in Texas, like Kemp in Georgia are striking. And I think he is on a mission to make sure that he's at the top of the list, that he's first in line as Democrats have conversations about who's up next in the run for the White House. And so whether that's now or later, he wants to be first in line, and it looks like he's willing to do the work to do it.
Would you be as enthusiastic about him as Bill Maher is as a candidate?
I think there is reason to be enthusiastic about Gavin Newsom. I think he has a lot of work to do. And being a native Californian, I know that California bias is something real in other parts of the country. And so he's got to do the work. And I think if he earns it, I think absolutely we should be giving him a serious look.
Nicola Corte is our chief national political affairs analyst. He's the host of his own program every day on my home station in L.A., KBLA Talk 1580, A More Perfect Union. Does an amazing job covering politics like a blanket in this country. And Nicola, I thank you as always for popping in to see me today.
Thank you, sir.
We'll reprise our conversation with Bill Maher when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Seeking the truth. Speaking the truth. This is the Tavis Smiley Show.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
It's a Monday, January 22nd. I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. It now costs a bit more to send letters in the mail. Over the weekend, the United States Postal Service increased the cost of a first-class Forever U.S. postage stamp from the current 66 cents to 68 cents. The price of domestic postcard stamps also rose from 51 cents to 53 cents, and stamps for international postcards are now up a nickel to $1.55. An amended congressional redistricting map has been approved in Louisiana. Friday, the state legislature passed a new congressional map following a federal judge's directive to add a second majority black district. The map now heads to Governor Jeff Landry's desk for approval, which he'll likely give. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Range-Link roadways, several areas with flooding and several types. Problems at Encino. If you're taking that drop on the 101 West at Haskell, looks like two of the left lanes are blocked with a crash. Busy from around Woodman. Elysian Park on the 5 South to the 110 South. That connector with a stalled vehicle loading up the drive here from Los Feliz Boulevard. Long Beach, the 405 South at Cherry. You have a crash in the left lane coming away from the 710. We're busy. West LA, that's flooding. Taking up the left lane here, 405 North approaching the 10, causing a busy drive from Howard Hughes Parkway. And flooding on the 57 North before Temple in the right lane. Stay to the left there. Slow and go from Sunset Crossing.
Shop the closeout event at Lowe's. Get up to 35% off select major appliances. Plus, save an extra $100 when you spend $999 or more on all major appliances. Valid 1/4/24 to 1/24/24. Selection varies by location while supplies last. See Lowe's.com for details.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Sunday was a good day for both of LA's NBA teams. The Lakers got back to 500 with a 24-point win over Portland. D'Angelo Russell had a game-high 34 points and 8 assists. LeBron dropped 28. The Lakers play the Clippers Tuesday night. The Clippers are 13 games over 500 after a comeback win over Brooklyn. They ended the game with a 22-0 run. Kawhi Leonard scored 14 of those points in the final 5 minutes, 23 off the bench for Russell Westbrook. The NFL's Final Four is set for next Sunday. Kansas City is at Baltimore for the AFC Championship. Two former MVP quarterbacks on display in this one, Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. Jackson is the favorite to win this year's MVP. Detroit goes to San Francisco to battle for the NFC title. Detroit is the only NFC team that has never played in the Super Bowl. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Some people just know the best rate for you is a rate based on you with Allstate, not one based on anyone else. So if you drive safely, you could save money. Good to know. Visit allstate.com or call for a quote today.
Substance use disorder and addiction is so isolating. And so as a Black woman in recovery, hope must be loud. It grows louder when you ask for help and you're vulnerable. It is the thread that lets you know that no matter what happens, you will be okay.
When we learn the power of hope, recovery is possible. Find out how at startwithhope.com. Brought to you by the National Council for Mental Wellbeing, Shatterproof, and the Ad Council.
Thanks for calling Discover. This is Anjali.
Hi, it's Jennifer Coolidge. I just got an alert for a strange charge on my card.
No problem. We make sure you're never held responsible for unauthorized purchases on your Discover card. Let's see. Did you purchase something from a t-shirt cannon store yesterday?
Absolutely not. No, I already have like 3.
$0 fraud liability guarantee. It pays to Discover. Learn more at discover.com/creditcard. Limitations apply.
Every business seeks an advantage, whether it's having the best location, hiring top talent, or spotting trends before they happen. And now, the United States Postal Service can give your business a new advantage. Introducing USPS Ground Advantage. Reliable and affordable 2 to 5 day package shipping. It's the advantage you need at the price you want. Get the Ground Advantage at USPS.com/advantage. The United States Postal Service, delivering for America.
Jim Gaffigan here with some more Straight Talk. Let's take a moment to appreciate our sweet children, loving grandparents, and eternal soulmates. Now let's use them to save money on wireless. Because with the Straight Talk Silver Plan, you get 4 lines for just $25 a month with unlimited data and no contracts. So add those human pawns, loved ones, and save money. Thanks, kids. They're finally worth it. Straight Talk Wireless, available at Walmart.
Get 4 lines on Silver Unlimited for $25 per line per month, plus taxes and fees. For data management practices and additional terms, visit straighttalk.com.
Let's get back to more of this rich dialogue with Tavis Smiley.
As promised, my friend Bill Maher is here, the host, of course, of Real Time on HBO, now going into, I think, season 22. Is it 22 seasons, Bill?
Unbelievable. Well, yes, I started when I was 10. It's 22 years.
Yeah.
We started in 2003. I'm not good at math. You're better at that than I am. But, it's been a while, and it's been a great ride.